Live from our studios in Tucson, Arizona. For the millions of fans listening around the world. From Long Realty with John Smith and Matt Bollinger. Let's get ready to talk real estate. Welcome to Real Estate Rumble. My name is John Smith. I'm here with my tag team partner, Matt Bollinger, and our special guest from Pillar to Post Home Inspection, Chad Casper. Today we're talking home inspections. Matt, why don't you say something smart and intelligent?
Smart and intelligent.
We're back to that. Thanks for coming over today. We appreciate you taking your time in your busy schedule.
Yeah.
We know home inspections kind of get crazy.
And thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. I always love doing these.
So the reason we thought we'd do a home inspector, talk to a home inspector, is because of our last episode when basically Dustin said that his biggest regret was that he did not do home inspections properly. So
He tried to save money by not going the full route with home inspections. So he regretted that. That
was about 7 years ago, right?
Yeah,
and things have changed in the home inspecting industry just within 7 years. I remember we used to have to call, and probably do someday, call individual inspectors to do a bunch of individual inspections.
Right.
And now it seems like more and more home inspectors are doing a one-stop shop.
Right.
Chad, is that kind of what your business does?
Yeah. Just to kind of piggyback off what you said, like even in my 8-year career, home inspections have changed dramatically. But yeah, we try to do the one-stop shop. We do everything from termite inspections to sewer scoping, which was huge. And then we just added solar inspections too, like 2 weeks ago. So we're always adding new stuff as we go.
Radon?
We do radon, we do mold.
How often do you do radon in Arizona, right? That's kind of a head scratcher to me, but there is radon in Arizona from my understanding.
There is some. We've had a few come back high.
Basements, so I think that's probably why it's not.
Yeah. So yeah, I know this is really, riveting stuff talking about radon, but it's actually the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States.
Really?
Yeah. It's natural radiation from the earth that comes up. So there's really no way of stopping it, but they put in mitigation systems and fans and things like that.
Well, you heard it here first. You learn something new every day, right?
That's
here
true.
On the Real Estate
Yeah.
Rumble.
September is Radon Awareness Month. It's coming up.
Do we need to wear a certain color shirt?
I think it's red. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm just
fair.
kidding. I have no idea.
Well, why don't you tell us quickly a little bit about your business and tell how long you guys been doing this? Why did you become a home inspector? I was going to be a home inspector instead of a real estate agent, and then I looked at I didn't want to get into roofs or under crawl spaces.
Yeah. That's the worst part of my job is the crawl spaces. I don't like spider webs and snakes and scorpions and all that. But So Pillar to Post is a franchise. So I bought it in 2016 actually. Launched my business in 2017. We've grown from just me, myself, and I doing everything to we're now have a team of about 8 of us now. So we've got 3 full-time inspectors, and not including myself. I got 1 in training, and we're looking to hire a couple of more. I've got a part-time marketing assistant.
Hold on a minute for a second. Training? You got to be trained to be a home inspector.
You have to
I can't
be
just be a guy that goes and crawls around a roof and tells you
your dad, your uncle, your next door neighbor can't be your home inspector. So there is a licensing process involved, and it takes probably about 4 to 6 months to get fully trained and licensed.
Wow. Which includes some...
So you have to do a certain number of hours of classroom, which can be done online or in person. You have to pass the national exam, and then you have to do 30 parallel inspections with a licensed inspector.
Which is finding somebody to allow you to
somebody
do 30.
to go with you. You have to pay that person to take you out 30 times, and if you don't annoy them after the 30th time, you actually can get signed off on them.
You pay them.
Work
for them.
That's what we need. We need people to pay us to work for us.
They pay me to shadow along and learn what we do, and they have to write a report. I have to review that report and make sure that it meets the minimum standards for the state. So there's about 84 items that the state requires us to say, yes, we looked at this, and say certain things.
So you say a report, right? We all see these home inspection reports, and they're all about 40 to 50 pages long.
Or 70.
Or 70.
120.
80, 120, right? Which is not an exaggeration,
no,
right?
No.
So when I get one that's 120, how much faith should I have in my home inspector when it's so thick that it's just so full? Is that just them doing their job, or is it just a lot of boilerplate stuff they got to shove in there?
From my experience and knowing what we're required by the state to say, a lot of times, in my opinion, I think that's overshowing. I think that's just overdoing it, and that's a lot of legalese that doesn't need to be in there. That's a lot of CYA. There's 84 items that we're required to state in the report, and a good inspector will be thorough and will educate their client. and I've never had any claims. I've never had to fork out money because I missed something. Knock on wood. You guys told me not to knock on the desk. The audio guys are going to hate me for that, but that's okay. I pay them a lot of money to do this. It really comes down to your process and how you write your reports. Because for me, I didn't grow up in the trades. Like, I came from a sales and training background. And so when I bought this, I wanted to change that perception of the home inspector. You know, I always tell my guys, like, don't put it in doctor speak, put it in patient speak. Like, most people have no idea what a storm caller is. They're going to freak out and be like, what, there's a storm coming? Like, you got to say things very, very simple. Like, why use a quarter word when a nickel word works? And so that's what we try to do. We try to keep it very simple, very basic for the average Joe to understand.
Well, I didn't ever even think about it because a lot of people that do home inspections are actually old tradespeople, right?
A lot of them are, yeah.
And I used to be a plumber for 20 years, and that was my first thought. Oh, man, go do home inspections. Well,
you got the plumbing part covered.
Got the plumbing part covered, but nothing else.
That used to be who got into the home inspections now. And now we're seeing a lot of people who have never done the trades get into home inspections and are having great success because the clients are way more educated now and they want that information. And so they need somebody that can relay that information accurately and appropriately to meet them on their level. And a lot of these overly technical guys, I think, just talk over people's heads, and that scares people more.
Right.
Is that would you say the biggest challenge you have is having people who don't have any experience in the trades or buying a home before and going through the process is explaining to somebody who's paying you to inspect their house, gets 40, 50, 60 pages of information, to not have them freak out so much about the house that they want to run the other direction.
Right. I mean, number one thing I get asked by real estate agents is, are you a deal killer? And that's the last thing we want, so we want to be those educators. So I hire a very specific type of personality. Like, I want somebody that's an educator at heart.
Not an alarmist.
Not a non-alarmist, somebody, obviously they have to have attention to detail. They have to have some sort of understanding of the technical side of the business, but I look more for the people skills.
Right.
So I'm gonna just throw a big alert here. When an agent comes to you and says, "Are you a deal killer?" You don't work for the agent. You work for the client.
We work for the buyer.
The buyer, right?
The buyer is our client.
And so if you feel that it's necessary to be in the report, I mean, have you ever not put something in the report because you were afraid that it was going to kill a deal?
No.
You haven't even second thoughts, right?
No, in fact, one of my first inspections, we were talking about this earlier before we started this, where the agent was like, hey, this is a house that was built in the era of polybutylene, poly B. She said, hey, if you find poly B, this is going to kill the deal. And I did my inspection. I went to the agent. I said, hey, here's poly B. I'm going to do my very darndest to educate the client and make this as smooth as I can. But I'm just the messenger. I didn't put the poly B there. And she was like, well, you need to leave that out of your report. And I'm like, no, because what's going to happen 3-6 months down the line when there's a problem and I get sued and I'm going to go to the judge and go, well, the agent told me not to tell the client that this was there.
Wow.
How's that going to go over? I'm going to get vilified.
So you're finding poly pipes, just as an example of something that maybe people don't understand. If those pipes have been in a property and they've been functioning as they're supposed to or as they were intended to, I'm not sure why that would necessarily be a deal killer for somebody anyway.
It shouldn't, because if it hasn't had a problem yet, the likelihood of it having a problem is very, very small.
Oh, that's a fine line, right? Because you can't ever predict.
I can't predict. I can't guarantee you that.
You could have copper pipes or PEX pipes that fail.
Well,
we're talking about 30-year-old plumbing at this point for PEX, or not PEX. I'm sorry, poly B is 30 years old. Well, guess what? Copper, its shelf life is 30 years.
Yeah, well,
you could even have copper fail.
So I used to do a lot of work in Tempe in my plumbing company, and it's full of Orangeburg. And for those of you that don't know what Orangeburg is, Orangeburg is a pipe that's basically made of cardboard and tar. Okay, and over time,
that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, well, actually, over time, about 50 years, it starts to squash.
Sure.
Okay, and then flatten out. Now people are like, "Oh, that terrible Orangeburg." It lasted 50 years in this thing. Now you're having a problem.
Right.
Okay. Sooner or later, all pipes are going to have a problem. Sooner or later, there's going to be an issue.
Everything has a shelf life.
Right.
Everything has a life cycle.
You talk about those in the inspections too. It's not just poly pipes or whatever, but you talk about life expectancy for
all the
air
mechanicals,
conditioners,
roofs, water heaters, AC units, roofs. Yeah, we talk about the life cycle of that stuff. In fact, we actually provide a brochure that has the average life cycle of all of the different components of a home.
Right.
So when you can't identify the age of something,
Mm-hmm.
is that the information you're leaving? Hey, listen, we couldn't find the nomenclature, couldn't find the sticker. Here's a life cycle. You can take an assumption that it's this age, but I can't guarantee that.
Yeah,
Is
like
that
a, like a, say, a condenser on an air conditioning unit that doesn't have any stickers left.
Yeah, if it doesn't have a sticker, I can't tell you the exact age, but I can tell you what era it was built in. I can kind of look at it and go, okay, this house was built in the 90s. This is a little rusted, busted, and not looking so new. It's probably original.
right?
So there's certain clues that we can infer just based off of looking at the home and just different characteristics of the home.
Yeah, I can tell you as far as a real estate perspective, if the air conditioning, if we're not bragging about the air conditioning,
It's old.
in the description,
old.
it's probably old.
It's old.
You know, it's,
Right.
what do you think? Because
Right.
we look for everything to brag about. So new home buyers, they don't know some of them are educated. You're right. They're more educated now than they ever have been, and then some. But sometimes they get nervous. Sometimes they get tentative. And a lot of times money is tight.
Mm-hmm.
Is the home inspection the place to skimp
No.
on money?
This goes back to Dustin's comment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because it could turn into who knows how much money later down the road.
Right. Better's not always cheaper. Cheaper's not always better.
Right.
You know, and that's one of those things is you're buying your future home, right? You want to know everything you can about it. You wouldn't buy a car without test driving it. You wouldn't.
Right. I agree.
So that's what we're doing in the inspections. We're test driving that house. And so, you know, and every inspector is different, you know, and there's guys for all areas of the market, and most inspectors that I met are actually really good inspectors. But I think really where we bring that value and that difference is our one-stop shop,
Yes.
our education, just the overall customer service and the experience of that home inspection. We just do so many different things with new technology that other guys are just, they're the vanilla of Baskin Robbins. You get one flavor and that's all you get. Whereas we have multiple offers.
Easy to order. It's
Easy to order. You can customize your order. You can say, these are the things I want. These are things I care about. Cool. By the way, we offer these things too. Don't want it. Great.
Yeah.
That's up to you. You know, so if they don't want to do it, we're not going to do it.
So the one thing that came to my mind while you're describing the custom thing is like the infrared vision of the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, is that cooling escaping from the house, or is that, am I just crazy and don't know what I'm talking about?
You're on the right track.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not
Yeah,
crazy.
so what is
you
that?
are crazy, but not in that way.
But this is the second person in 2 episodes that said I was crazy.
But a good crazy. That's
Yeah,
why we like you.
exactly.
That's why we get along.
That the jury's still out. Okay. But what is the purpose of that, and why would I need it? Something like that.
So yeah, infrared. It's a special camera that we offer that we have as far as in a couple of our inspection packages. And so what the infrared does is it senses the temperature coming off of different surfaces. And so a lot of times we can see things that you can't see with the naked eye. So we'll look for overheating breakers in an electric panel. I've seen just last week, I saw a breaker that was 190 degrees. And I found one a couple months ago. It was a brand new house, brand new build, and it was 240 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking house fire status
Okay.
right there. So yeah, but the breaker looked totally fine. It hadn't,
For now. Yeah.
hadn't overheated yet. And so we were able to catch that. So we can see water damage. We can see leaks. We can see, one of my inspectors actually found a leaky air duct in a new build. And they actually had to come out and do an air test just to make sure that it was not leaking.
That's one of the inspections that they get on those is sealed up, making sure they're not losing anything.
Well, speaking of new builds, they're not real big fans of home inspectors, are they?
No, they're not.
And they don't make it easy on
But
you.
necessary, right?
They're very
For somebody that's
necessary.
doing it. So do
Yeah.
what do you recommend for somebody who's new? Do you probably not at slab or whatever, but maybe at, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, here's my suggestion, and I want you to tell me if I'm crazy, okay?
You're
Wait,
crazy.
You've already done that.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. So when I do new builds, when I have clients that want new builds, I let them go through the process for a whole year. Okay. And then right before that warranty's up, that's when I have the home inspection come out, because then they can submit their warranties right towards the end.
Right.
Okay.
So what I recommend.
That's stuff you can see.
Right. So once that drywall goes up, we can't see it.
Right.
Because we're a limited visual inspection
So
only.
prior to covering
So
can
I
see
always
electrical
recommend,
insulation, all that.
I always recommend a pre-drywall inspection.
Okay.
So we can see all of the structural components, which we've found trusses that are like cracked and missing anchor plates. I mean, it's
Not
scary.
hung right.
Like studs that were cracked in half, and then like they had like 2 nails through it with a board on it. It was like, really, dude?
So do you sell a package that includes those phases?
Yeah, so we typically do a pre-drywall, and then right before their final walkthrough with the builder, we do a final inspection with them.
Okay.
Just like you were doing with
just like we would do with any other
house.
resale house. Yeah. And so we usually give them a $25 discount if they do the pre-drywall and the final with us.
Got it.
And then we also recommend the 1-year warranty.
Okay.
And then we'll give them an additional discount on top of that.
And the
come back
purpose
and
of
check
that is so they can use their warranty all throughout the year, get stuff fixed, and at the 1-year warranty, have a punch list at the end that came over.
It's all on the builder's dime.
That's right. And then just turn it all in.
As long as you keep your times.
Right. And there are things, because it takes a house about 2 to 3 years to fully settle, and these are brand new systems that haven't been run yet. And so sometimes things aren't evident while it's being constructed, or even within the first little while of being in the home. And so that's why we recommend the 1-year warranty, just to make sure everything is operating correctly. Go through all of the seasons of the home, because your AC may seem great in November, but guess what?
Yeah.
Come June and July,
find out it's undersized.
It's not quite working as well as we thought.
Right. I think I've had a new build where they cut the trusses out to put in a larger unit.
Oh yeah.
And then there was no engineering stamp or something along that ways to prove that they were repaired them. And this was over $1 million home. So it can happen no matter what the price tag.
We did a sewer scope on $1 million. It was actually almost a $3 million home. And as soon as we dropped the camera down the line, it was full of water.
Oh, wow.
And the contractor buried the clean out, and the home builder was pissed. Like, he actually told me to get off the call because he was chewing out his guy so bad.
Okay.
Because they had 3 days to get this house finished, or the guy was going to walk, and they were out $3 million.
Wow.
So yeah, I always tell people, like, you get what you pay for, and you can't, the enemy you know is better than the enemy you don't know.
So you brought up sewer inspections.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm a true believer, would recommend one every single inspection. If they are in doubt, if they're going to skimp anywhere, it's not the sewer inspection.
Correct.
I agree. There's another one you can't see. It's not like you're walking through the house and you can see something there, but it could be anything. It could be a belly. It could be
roots.
It could be roots. Could be a crack. It could be anything, but you don't want to have to dig that thing up after you own it.
What I like about using a home inspector to do that is they're kind of an independent, right? They don't have a skin in the game. Right. In other words, they don't have a repair possibility or a replacement. Right. Now, there was a time where I was a plumber, right? And things that were taught in that trade were not exactly above board. And one of them was to go in, cut out the pipe, call your supervisor, have the supervisor come out with a camera, run the camera down the sewer line, and anything that he sees where he brings up to the client and scares them into a sewer replacement.
Yeah.
Okay. Including where they took the 2 pieces of ABS pipe with XX glue, put them together, and it dripped down and made these things kind of look like roots.
Oh, from inside.
From the inside. And so then what they would do at that point was like, oh, you need a whole new sewer. And the key was not to bury the pipe again. Leave it exposed, because then they see their whole project still, oh my God, my sewer's all torn up. I got to do this. I kind of forced to do something. So there's all kinds of little tricks out there. Not that I'm bashing the plumbing trade. I was in it for a lot of years, but you got to be really careful with contractors. Home inspectors.
Same thing nowadays with the lining.
Right. That's a whole nother story. Don't get me started on that.
Stories upon stories on that.
And so I always like to use or recommend a home inspector that can offer an independent decision. And if they come across something where they're like, well, that's a root, and yes, you're going to need a bid. You have a sheet out there, if I recall, that actually gives a little bit of pricing.
Yeah, so we have a program in-house where once we send out the report, the client can opt in to have that sent to a third-party company that we partnered with, and they'll give us estimates based off of our inspection report.
Wow.
And then for the sewers, because they don't do the sewer quotes, but we actually have partnered with 3 different plumbers in town, and then we'll send them our video and say, hey, give us a quote, and they'll do it. So
yeah, and those are plumbers I'm sure you've vetted and trust.
Yeah, and I'm always looking for new ones and different ones, because some of them get busy and they don't respond right away.
Right.
I want to pull my hair out, but yeah, they're honest people and they do a really good job. But trades guys are busy right now. I get that. But yeah, that's one of the benefits of us doing it is we're that independent third party. I don't care if I find problems.
Right.
And I don't care if I do find problems. I get paid the same. I have no vested interest in creating problems for people.
Right. Because you're basically your big reach there is you're building relationships with people, building relationships with agents. Which again, I have to stress when I go to a home inspection, my job is sit there and look pretty. Okay.
And it's not my job. You do a great job of that.
I sit there and people are like, well, what do you think? And I go, what I think is not important here. What you need to do is have a discussion between your home inspector and you. My job is to help you get through the next phase, which is asking for repairs if necessary.
How important do you think it is to have the client at the inspection? Is it that much easier to go over your summary of what you found right then and there?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to go over this 60-page or whatever it ends up being document after the fact. I mean, you could read a home inspection report. If you hadn't been to the house, you'd almost just go, let's just demolish this thing.
Right.
I mean, because there's a lot of things in it. There always is.
There's always going to be things because no house is perfect.
Even a new build.
95% of them are not, catastrophic things. They're just things. So,
right. Because if I'm doing an inspection and the client's walking around with me and I'm like, oh, see this stucco crack here? Yeah, it's really thin. It's really not structural. It's just
so they've
cosmetic.
Seen what, yeah.
But then when they read my report, they're like, oh my gosh, there's a stucco crack. Like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, no. Remember I showed you that crack? And they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. I don't need to freak out now. So I prefer it when the client does come either for the full thing or for the wrap up because I can address all their questions and concerns right then and there. And I'm not spending the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days rehashing all the same stuff that we just talked about.
We always recommend that our clients go to that.
Yeah.
If they can at all possible show up, they have to, because it's
right.
It's way more informative as to, what's really, really, really necessary right now. So like health safety systems kind of things versus maybe more aesthetic or whatever. Just
minor Home Depot DIY weekend warrior project,
cracked switch plate or something like that. It's like
well, what if the buyer cannot be there, right? So I've been notorious of selling people homes from overseas and then they move here after the fact. What's your solution to that?
Yeah. So we actually came out with what's called P2P 360. So we actually take 360 camera technology and we take 360 shots in and outside of the home, and that integrates with our inspection software. So they actually can zoom in. They can actually see comments and photos from the report room by room and see everything that we tagged in that report.
And they can ask you while they're going over it.
Yeah.
What they're looking at. Is it really important? That sort of question.
I had a guy, he was stationed somewhere in like Japan or something in the military, called me at 3 a.m, which I don't recommend, but he did. He was freaking. He's like, hey,
what's your number so we can call?
Exactly. Yeah. Give out my number. It's 123. No, I'm kidding. But he called me and he was just like, hey, my wife's going to the inspection. She knows nothing about homes. I am freaking out. And I'm like, relax, bro. I got you.
Yeah.
So I sent him the email. The next morning I get a phone call, 3 a.m. It's him again. He goes, dude, I felt like I was at the house with you. He goes, I am totally confident you found everything. I know where everything is. I know where all the problems are. He goes, whatever that technology is, I would pay double for that.
That's awesome.
It was super cool.
And so
I have those calls every week. It's awesome.
So I'm the agent. What rights do I have?
As far as?
I don't know. Why'd you put that on the report? Why are you doing this? What's going on here? Why are you scaring my client?
So again, we're not trying to scare them. We're trying to educate them. And there are times where, there is a problem. There are certain things that are a safety factor, a mechanical factor, costly repairs. So as far as an agent goes, we like to partner with our agents because we want to be that professional partner where we can help save you time and money. We want to be that trusted, valued partner where you can make that one phone call and we're going to take care of everything. We're going to educate the client. We're going to do our very, very best, quote unquote, not to kill the deal.
Yeah.
But bottom line, really the agent has no business involved even in the correspondence between the two. And if the inspection report's shared by the client to the agent, not vice versa.
Right. Yeah. In fact, our inspection agreement that we have, that we're required to have the client sign, in fact states like we are not allowed to give that report out to anybody other than the client and anybody that they deem necessary.
Correct.
So I've actually had clients who are like, I don't want you to send that to my realtor. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Right. Ooh.
And the agent's upset. And I'm like, legally, I can't do it, dude. It's in the contract.
Right. They have to share it.
I'm not allowed to share that. You can send it to whoever you want, Mr. or Miss Client, but I can't give it out.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen?
Oh gosh. So couple. I mean, we've seen so many crazy things. Hoarders, and we've seen.
Oh yeah, I love it when people talk about the condition of their house, and we have to say, you have seen, this is nothing.
This is nothing. I always like it when I walk into a house and the seller's still there and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, my house is dirty. And I'm like, whatever. There's a pair of like gym shorts on the floor. I'm like, that's not dirty. I'm like, when you have 10 cats living in the house, peeing and pooping on the floor, nothing against cats. But yeah, no, I was working with an investor and he was like, hey, I want you to just do a sewer scope. It was an older home, so it likely had clay or cast iron piping. And the homeowner was like, no, I paid this company $6,000 for one of those permaliners. Dropped my camera down there, did not see any permaliner.
Wow.
It was all clay and it was broken and caved in on itself. And then it was so jacked up. And she was like, she ran inside and got me the receipt. And she goes, look, I called this company. They came out 2 years ago and I paid $6,000. I'm like, they didn't do nothing for you. So
You've seen that with a septic system.
Yeah.
Where they moved it but didn't permit it. Nobody knew where it was. They killed the old one, put the new one in. We were out there with shovels trying to find it. We finally had to have somebody come out and dig for it.
Yeah.
And found it. And they charged him this was before he became our client, but for permitting for the whole thing. And none of that was done. It was disgusting, really.
Yeah.
Because he was about 85 years old, something like that.
Yeah, he was.
We had one where the MLS listing said it was on city sewer. We did a sewer scope. It was on a septic tank, and it hadn't been pumped in
forever,
5-6 years. Like they didn't even know it was on a septic.
Wow.
So that was a big.
People don't know that. Just use Scottsdale for example. There's septic tanks in the middle of Scottsdale, and people don't even realize it. Okay, so a septic tank could be just about anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. In town. A lot of people think it's just the outskirts, but this was in town.
So you want to hear my worst story?
Yes.
You can't cut it out. You got to promise to leave it in.
Sure.
Had a home inspector come out to a manufactured home. Climbs under the manufactured home. Great home inspector at the time. Crawls underneath there. Comes back out and goes, anybody missing a dog?
Oh, that's bad.
Was it dead?
It was no longer with us. And the guy goes, no, but I thought something kind of smelled funny. And so the home inspector, great guy, drug that thing out of there for him. Ooh. I mean, that's tough.
Ugh.
That's a good home inspector.
I had one where it was in a small apartment building, and we were inspecting all the units. And the very last one we went into, you literally opened the door, and there was a path, and the trash in the place was piled up. He slept on the top of a bunk bed. The trash was piled up to the bottom of the top bunk. In the whole place. The oven, you open it, full of garbage. It was another hoarder kind of situation, but trash. And my guy walked on that one, but it was ugly. So
hey,
I'm
guys,
sure you've seen a lot of stuff.
We're up against the break, so let's take a 5-minute break before we come back, and we'll finish up. We're gonna talk about the top 5 things you should ask your home inspector, and we'll get back to you. If you have any questions about today's show, feel free to reach out to us directly at smithandbollinger at longrealty.com. And always remember, we're here for you for all your real estate needs. Whether it's residential, commercial, investment, or land, we got you covered. Welcome back. This is John Smith with Real Estate Rumble. We are here with our special guest, Chad Casper, with Pillar to Post Home Inspections, and of course, we're back here with what's his name. So one of the topics we were talking about on break was basically conditions of current homes. Tucson has a weird market. Okay, you can have $100,000 house next to a $3 million house. Believe it or not, the $100,000 house could be in better condition than the $3 million house, right? So overall, the condition of homes in Tucson, what would you say for the most part?
I think overall they're in good shape. I mean, it's very rare that we find those, walk away type homes. I think it really just comes down to age, what era the home was built, because you're going to have different problems with various eras. Things start getting old, things start wearing out.
My God, we're in a Taylor Swift concert.
I know, right?
Go ahead.
And it really just depends on the style of home, the slump block versus your track stucco home.
What the hell is slump block?
Yeah, there you go.
What is slump block? Is it just red brick, burnt adobe?
No.
What is slump block? What is it?
it's a very unique block to Arizona, but it's almost like a big giant brick.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's almost like a concrete brick.
That's it?
Yeah.
It's nothing special. It's not the stuff in the middle oozing out and all that stuff. I thought that's what slump block was.
No.
It's just
That's
brick.
more Adobe.
That's an Adobe.
Yeah, you have like your burn Adobe block, and then you have your slump block. And then you have your brick, your traditional brick houses. So your slump block is going to be, it comes in various colors, but most of the time people will paint it. But yeah, it's usually like kind of a brownish burnt red kind of a color. It's very well insulated. You'll get those
thick.
older, it's super thick. Those houses keep the cold in and the heat out in the summertime.
I mean,
great.
we could go on all day. At least I can, because I'm a question asker. That's all it seems I do anymore. But that's how I learn, right? And the things that I have concern with brick houses is when you see that cracking, that step cracking going upside the house. Is that not a deal breaker? There's a hole in my house.
Step cracking is usually not a major concern. That's usually pretty typical. But it really depends on how wide that crack is and if it's going through the brick or if it's just going through the mortar.
Got it.
Because you can always remortar that.
All right, so we're going to do a quick fire here and just maybe 1 or 2 word answers. Try to get the 5 things I should ask a home inspector. Okay.
Ooh,
all right.
Third favorite dinosaur.
Okay, their dinosaur.
Kidding.
Okay, so when it comes to price, give me the first thing that comes to your head. Ready? Price of a home inspector.
You get what you pay for.
Okay. Availability.
2 to 3 business days.
Professionalism.
Probably the top thing to look for.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Why is that the top thing to look for?
I always, again, it's how do you convey yourself as a professional, right? You want somebody that's going to show up, that's got a cigarette coming at, in their hand, that smells like a chimney, missing teeth, shows up with a beat up truck, ratty old t-shirt, torn up jeans. Like, how confident is you and your client going to be in that purchase and in that inspection?
Probably not very.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Right?
Okay.
We all show up in logoed shirts, similar colors. We all have, branded vehicles. We put, magnets on all my guys' trucks. You know who we are. The neighbors know who we are. We carry ourselves in a very professional manner. We have a very professional presentation. All of our reports are very standard. It's very uniform across the way. So it doesn't matter if I do it or one of my guys do it. They're all going to do it the exact same way that I do it. So that wasn't a 2-word answer, by the way.
No, I got it, but that's okay. I think it needed to be expanded on a little bit more. Can't I just do the same thing with just having a bunch of individual trades come over?
You're going to be paying a lot of money for that, and they're there to sell you something. At the end of the day, they're there to sell you on a new roof, a new plumbing system, a new water heater.
So not somebody with no skin in the game. They
Right.
want to get that job.
That's why I love the inspector, because in a real estate transaction, most people are either financially invested or emotionally invested. The home inspector is none of those. And so I don't care if I find a million things wrong or nothing wrong with a house. In fact, I love it when I have nothing wrong with the house, because I'm like, dude, you got a practically perfect house. Here you go. Like, it's exciting, to high five people and see them excited about their future purpose, and that sense of tension and stress of being like, okay, did we make the right purchase? And it's like, yeah, you got a good investment. Oh, good.
And it is stressful for people.
It's
one of the
stressful.
biggest financial transactions that they'll make in their lives. So that's probably pretty stressful. What do they say? That and moving and divorce, I think.
Right.
No comment. Been through a few of those. So investment wise, because I believe a home inspection is an investment for your house's future and the knowledge of what you're getting into. Okay. On average, let's say we pick every option you have. How expensive is that going to be?
Every option that I have,
Let's go over like typical options that people choose.
So
thousands?
So right now my average client is paying around $700.
Okay.
So that's typically including a termite inspection, a sewer scope, and then our middle inspection package that we offer, which includes the infrared and a couple other bells and whistles.
So for $700 ish, depending on whether or not
depending on the size of the home
right,
and other factors, yeah.
It's almost like an insurance policy. It's more of an education about your house. Let's look at it that way.
Exactly.
I'm educating you on what is here, so in the future nobody can plan for a catastrophe, but we could have knowledge that one may take place, so we can know which one to target first. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the inspection is not a guarantee or a warranty against any future things or that anything will fail. I mean, things can happen at any point in time.
Right.
But
that day,
but it's a snapshot of what the condition of the home is at the time of inspection.
Because I do hear, and I have heard, that the home inspector missed this. Even years down the road, right? It's years down the road. Oh, the home inspector didn't pick up on this. Well, what didn't they pick up on? Well, that the fence was going to fall, right? Well, probably chances he can't predict that you didn't paint your fence.
We had a tornado a couple weeks ago. People were like, you didn't tell me that these tiles would break on my roof. And I'm like, we had a freaking tornado. Like,
right.
I'm not God. I can't predict what's going to happen with the weather and things like that. But I can tell you at the time of inspection, this is in good condition, poor condition, whatever the case may be.
So, Chad, of course, we want to make sure everybody knows how to use your services, okay?
Yep.
In the past, we've had some great results with you, but it's up to Chad to really take that ball and run with it. So how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can, a lot of different ways. You can call or text our office line, which is 520-271-3005. Or you can reach us through our website, which is chadcasper.pillartopost.com. We actually have an online booking system, which you can do 24/7, 365. You can just go right on there and say, ooh, Chad's available Monday at 9 a.m. I want that slot. And you can go on, pick your packages, whatever options you want, sign and pay for it right then and there. You don't even have to talk to a person.
So you made me think of another question. Can I get a sample report so that way I can see exactly what you do?
Absolutely.
And if I was confused about that sample report, can I call you and say,
absolutely,
hey, what is this and why? And why do you recommend this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've sent my report to a sample report to tons of my clients because they want to see what they're getting. And I've actually had the VA call me and say, we love your report out of any other home inspector because it's so simple to read. We know exactly where everything is. Everything is numbered, bullet pointed. Like it's just, it takes a lot of information and puts it into a very simple form.
So it's not a stretch to ask a home inspector for a sample report.
No. And if they refuse to give you a sample report, that's probably not the inspector for you.
Well, hey guys, that's all the time we have this week with Real Estate Rumble. Again, we want to thank Chad Casper from
Appreciate it.
Pillar to Post Home Inspection. He's an amazing guest. I would certainly reach out to him with any questions about home inspection. You certainly don't want to reach out to me because I'm just going to refer you to Chad. Okay. On behalf of Mr. Bollinger here and myself, thank you for tuning in. And Chad, let's do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Appreciate it. Come on anytime. This was fun.
In.
All right.
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Real Estate Rumble. It's proudly produced and edited by Unestablished Media. If you're looking to start your own podcast or in need of social media services, design work, or even website creation, check out our website at unestablishedmedia.com. Thanks.